As a small boy, I well remember the stories my uncle told me of the early days of aviation. He flew regularly from Berlin, first to Königsberg, as it was then called in East Prussia, to land finally in Moscow. This was the world's longest passenger air route at the time in 1926. Of course, my aunt and my cousins, seen here on the right at Berlin Airport, got left behind with the engineers who kept the plane flying. The aircraft were mostly Fokker, a company founded by the gifted Dutch engineer Anthony Fokker. He had already produced some of the earliest military aircraft in World War I for Germany, like this one, flown by the daring Red Baron. This was an early Junkers F-13 with an inline water-cooled engine. Flying was often open-air cockpits for the pilots who flew by the seat of their pants, ending regrettably in disasters from time to time. Flying was a risky business without navigational beacons or radar. My uncle said they followed railway tracks. However, my uncle wasn't in the pilot's seat. He was a mechanic from Derby, England, home of Rolls-Royce, who produced water-cooled aero engines as well as what was touted as the world's finest automobile. And here's the man himself in Berlin, surrounded by German aviators. The year was 1926, and to your left was his wife, my aunt, and to your right, my mother. And the young pilot holding her hand could have become my father. My mother was 18 years old and was living with her sister and her husband. What a time to be young, in love, and living in Berlin in the roaring 20s. The terrible conflict of World War I was over. Germany was starting to rebound with new energy and fresh ideas for rebuilding a spectacular future. People were out shopping, meeting friends at boulevard cafes and driving around in luxury automobiles. There was a feeling of freedom and prosperity, which my mother would have enjoyed. But for my mother, the catch was my father. This is the happy couple shortly after their wedding, and on December the 19th, 1936, I was born. For some reason, out of my two older brothers and me, I was the one that my uncle shared his flying and travel stories with. I had quite a collection of his souvenirs: a Russian fur hat, a pilot's leather helmet, a pilot's flying boots, a survival kit in case of a crash. For 9 months, my uncle was trapped behind enemy lines at the outset of World War II. Fast forward to 1957, when the Bristol Aeroplane Company, his new employer, launched the Britannia, the world's first long-range turboprop plane. My uncle was promoted to take charge of Bristol's maintenance and repair base at Vancouver Airport in Canada. Canadian Pacific Airways had bought a fleet of the Whispering Giants, as they became known. Here, my aunt and uncle were together back home in Bristol, England, celebrating their golden wedding anniversary. As my uncle said at their party, they'd grown up with aviation from wooden propellers and wicker chairs to Concorde and the supersonic era. What a life and what an inspiration. So, now you know how I grew up with travel and flying. You could say it's in my blood and my life.
Don't forget me, your travel companion. We met traveling, of all things, on a tour bus in Hawaii and put our lives together to see the world and share our rich adventures, which are now available on DVD through Amazon. This is just a small sampling of some of the wonderful places we have visited. Kenya, Russia, Australia, Egypt, Alaska, Turkey, Greece, Ireland, Israel, Jordan, Argentina, Moldova, Italy, Mexico, Colombia. We'd also love to tell you about our next adventure, driving across Russia in our 1973 German-built VW camper van, which I nicknamed the Jolly Green Jelly Bean. This will be a peace mission based on love, peace, and happiness. The camper will be a traveling message board, carrying your messages on one side of the van and bringing back their messages on the other side. We believe that Russians, like people the world over, want the same basic things that we do. Please help us on our way. Buy a DVD, write a message on our van, make a donation. Let's make it happen. Thank you. Spasiba.